Welcome to Stayf Draws. I'm Stayf, an illustrator and animator, and in this video I'm going to explain how to make shapes in Procreate. Procreate doesn't come with preset shapes you can use like circles, rectangles or squares, but you can make your own shape brushes. So let's get to the video. You're not able to draw shapes in Procreate, but there's a workaround to it. You can use custom brushes to make your own shapes, and you can make custom brushes at a size at 2048 at 2048. So that's what we're going to do now. First, going to create a new file, which is a square, and that's 2048 by 2048, and it's right up here. So first going to do this, and the first shape we're going to make is a perfect square. So what you can do is use the drop tool, and we're just going to use black and white for the total shape of the brush, because we first need to create a perfect shape. So I'm just going to drop this in, and what I'm going to do now is duplicate this file, and now I'm going to make it white. And I sometimes don't find the total white. What you can do is press on the upper left corner, and there you can type in the values, and white is 255 by 255 by 255. So, and this one, so this is the perfect white, and I'm going to drop this in. Now I'm going to use the transform tool to make a square, and don't set it to free form but magnetic. You can find that down in the menu, and then you have to squeeze it, because when you set it to magnetic it will transform evenly. And now I just need to tweak it that all the lines are the same width. Then you just have to leave it alone. And now we're going to create the shape of the brush, and I'm going to export this with share artwork and then as a PNG and save it to my photos library. So now I've saved the shape of the perfect square, and we're just going to test it in this same file. So now we're going to here are all the brushes of Procreate, and you can make your own set of brushes. So you can do that by pressing on the plus sign, but I already have some new sets out here. So I'm just going to tap on new set, and now it's still empty. And now when you press on the plus sign in the upper right corner of the pop over window, you can create a new brush. And the brushes in Procreate consist of a shape and a grain. So we're first going to select the shape source. So tap on the square and then go to Photos, Camera Roll, and there you see the shape you just made. And then we're going to select the grain. And in the Pro library of Procreate, you already have a lot of different shapes and also grains. And you have to scroll down because we want a perfect grain. And then I'm going to use blank. So when you go to the shape source, you can see that if you want to use it, I'm just going to select black, and we can test it out now and create a new layer. And now you see that when you paint with it, it doesn't have a shape. Well, it has a shape, but it's more of a brush, and you don't want that. So I'm going to delete this and go back to the brush. And you can also invert the shape source by tapping with 2 fingers on the shape source. And now you can see that it is a square with a line around it, and we want that. But we don't want to have this. Want to have, because if you jitter a little bit with your hand, and I'm now doing it with my finger, but we want it to snap. So underneath, in this panel, you have a lot of different options to adjust your brush. And we're first going to go to stroke. What we need to do is to adjust the spacing and set that to max. The opacity needs to be on max, and also the size needs to be on max. Then we go to shape, and there you don't have to change anything. Then we go to the grain. In the grain, we going to adjust the movement. It's now on rolling. We don't want that, and we're going to set it to stamp. So you have to slide it to the left, and then on the right you see that it says stamp. Then we're going to adjust the scale and set that to 50%. Rotation you can leave at 0%, and switch off filtered. Then we're going to dynamics, and in dynamics we're going to switch on glazed and accumulative, and leave the flow to max. Now we're going to adjust the settings of your Apple Pencil, and we're going to set the size to max and the softness to 0. And finally, we're going to adjust the settings in general, and there you can adjust the size of your brush. And I'm going to switch on use stamp preview. I'm going to set the size limit to max and the minimum size limit to around 17 or 20%. And you can also adjust the opacity limits. I set it to max and the minimum to around 50%. And now can clear this canvas and use the brush. And when you now press on your canvas with the brush, it's now too big because you cannot see it. And you can adjust the size of your brush, and now you have it just pops in. And the bigger you make your brush, the bigger your shape will be. And this is too big, but you can adjust that in these settings, and you can see it in the preview window. And when you adjust the size of your size limits, you can make it larger or bigger. And I'm not just using my fingers, but when you use the Apple Pencil, when you press very soft, it's smaller, and if you just press it harder, makes the shape bigger if you press your Apple Pencil harder. So this is how you make a basic shape. And then of course you can use the shape with different colors. And when you have finished your brush, it's always good, you know, to name your brush. And I'm just going to call this Stayf Square. So now you have saved it in your new set, and this is the set and this is your brush. And now we're going to create a rectangle. So press on the plus again, and we're not going to select the shape yet because we have to make the shape, and it's still in the same canvas we're working on. We only have to adjust these two layers. So this is the white part and this is the black part, but I'm going to merge them. You can merge them by pressing on the layer and say merge down, or you can squeeze them together and merge these two layers down, but I'm just going to use merge down. So now I have the rectangle in place, and with the transform tool I'm going to make it smaller so that it will become a rectangle. So now we've made a perfect rectangle, and I'm going to export it to my photos library. So now we have the shape saved, and now we can start making a new brush. And we're going to select the shape again, go to photos library, camera roll, there's the shape, and we're going to set the grain again, and we're going to use the Pro library and scroll down when you find blank, and I'm just going to deselect this, create a new layer. Now we can test it out with black. Now it doesn't really look good, so we need to invert this. So everything that's black is transparent and everything that's white will be your brush. And now it's upright. So what you also can do is rotate the shape source, and you have to rotate it with 2 fingers. And now it's in landscape mode, but it's still a brush and we don't want this. So we're going to adjust the settings of the brush. So we're first going to stroke, and there we're going to set the spacing to max. The opacity is set to max and the size is set to max. So we're going to leave it at that. Then we go to the shape, and you don't have to change anything there. On the grain, we're going to change the movement to 0 or to stamp when it's set to stamp. The scale is around 50%, and the zoom we're going to set to 100%, or it says follow size, and we're going to switch filtered off. Then we're going to dynamics, and there we're going to change the glazed, we're going to switch it on, and accumulative, and the flow is set to max. Then we're going to the settings of your Apple Pencil or other pencils you're working with or style you're working with, and we're going to set the size to max, the softness to 0, and the angle to 9 or 10 degrees, doesn't really matter. The rest we're just going to leave as is. And then finally we're going to general, and there we're going to switch on use stamp preview, set the size limit to 100% to max, and the minimum percentage to around 20%. And you can also play around with the opacity limits, and the max is set to max, and the minimum you can set to around 50%. And now I'm going to clear this canvas and see what happens. And now it's a very big brush, but now, you know, with the size you can adjust the size of, and now I'm using the Apple Pencil. You press harder, you get bigger. So this is how you make a rectangle. Next thing we're going to do is draw a circle, and I'm not going to use Procreate to create the shape of the circle because there are some brushes, but they're not big enough. So I'm going to make the brushes in Photoshop. I'm now in Photoshop and I've made several different shapes, like the circle, an ellipse, and a little smaller ellipse, a polygon. Also did a square with a thinner line, a rectangle, which is perfectly placed. And you can also make some rounded rectangles. And I'm using the shape tools in Photoshop. So you can use these shapes to create your own shapes. And I'm also made this rounded rectangle. And I'm going to export all of these files as PNGs and then upload them to Dropbox. And then I can import everything in the Photos library on my iPad. So now I have imported all the shapes in my Photos library, and now I'm going to open Procreate again. And if you're satisfied with the brush settings, what you can do is, you know, adjust all the settings of your brush, but you can also duplicate the brush. Then you can just adjust the shape source. So I'm going to adjust this shape source, and we're going to do the circle. So I'm going to Photos, and I'm going to look for the circle. Here it is. And now you have created a perfect circle. I'm just going to do all of the shapes. So I'm just going to time lapse this because it's the same thing over and over again. So now I've made a lot of different brushes. So an ellipse, an oval, a polygon, rectangle rounded, Stayf rectangle thin, square rounded, a circle, rectangle, and a square. But what you also can do is select a shape like a star, and you can just search for it on Google Images and just search for the shape size. It needs to be 2048 by 2048 because that's the biggest brush size you can make in Procreate. It's always, you know, good to have uh, the biggest brush you can have because you can always, you know, diminish it. You can always diminish it, but when you want to make a brush bigger that's smaller in the shape, then you'll get pixelation in your brushes, and you don't want that. So I'm just going to select this one, and I also downloaded a star from Google, and I'm going to duplicate it and gonna change the shape source, and I've found a star. So we have to look for the star. Here it is, and name it. Just gonna clear the canvas and try it out. And the fun thing is I'm now just tapping it with my finger. So it will become smaller and you see it in the brush size. When you work on an A2 canvas, it's of course a much bigger canvas, and then your brush will be smaller according to the size of your canvas. Also found a French lily, and maybe you can use that as well. So I'm going to make a new brush, duplicate, and then change the shape again. And I found this one on the internet. So here you have that it's all filled in. So then you can make nice little patterns, and you can use any pattern you like. What I also did was trace this image and make an outline out of it, and just going to duplicate this and change the shape source again. And also have it as an outline, so call it French lily outline. So now you have it like this. So this is how you can make your basic shapes, and if you sign up for my newsletter, I will share all these shapes I've made, and in the next newsletter I'm going to publish all of these brush shapes will be available in my newsletter. So if you want to subscribe to or sign up for my newsletter, then you'll get all of these shape brushes for free. But it's also good, to make your own brushes, and this is the way you can do it and make them solid shapes. Now we're just going to have some fun with the shapes, and maybe just going to do something very simple. And this piece is inspired by the art of the Dutch artist Piet Mondriaan. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like it, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, please let me know in the comments down below. You can also subscribe to my channel and never miss another video. Drawing is fun, and practice makes perfect. See you next time. Doodles! You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and Periscope. You can buy my stuff on Vimeo on demand, Etsy, iBooks, and Redbubble. Subscribe to my newsletter and get free stuff. You can find the links in the description box down below.